Right now, as you watch this, three things are happening somewhere in the world. A country is building a military base near another country's border. A pipeline deal is being signed that will make one nation dependent on others for its energy. And two governments are negotiating a treaty that neither of them fully intends to honor. None of this is random, none of this is accidental, and none of this started today. Every conflict you read about in the news, every alliance, every sanction, every war, it all follows a logic. A very old, very consistent logic. That logic has a name. It's called geopolitics. And once you understand it, once you actually see it, you will never read the news the same way again. Welcome. This is the episode 1 of a series that is going to cover the entire history of international affairs. From the very first civilization all the way to world we live in today. We are going to start at the beginning, not with the World War II, not with the Cold War, the actual beginning. Because to understand today, you have to understand how we got here. And that story is far older, far more fascinating than most people realize. But before we dive into history, we need to answer one question. What exactly is geopolitics? What are we actually studying here? The word geopolitics comes from two Greek words, geo meaning earth and the politikos meaning related to the citizens or the state. Put them together and you get this, how geography shapes political power. But that's just the technical definition. Here's the real one. Geopolitics is the study of why nations do what they do and why they can't always do what they want. Think of every country in the world as a player in the very long, very complicated game. The board is the planet, the pieces are armies, economies, alliances, and resources. And the rules, the actual rules of the game are written not by any government, but by geography, by history, and by human nature itself. Geopolitics explains why Russia is obsessed with its western border, why China is building islands in the South China Sea, why United States has military bases on every continent, and why a small country like Qatar has more influence than other countries 10 times its size. It's not ideology, it's not religion, it's not even personality, it's geography, it's resources, it's the core logic of power. There are four forces that drive all of geopolitics. Think of them as the four pillars. We are going to spend this episode on all four, and then every episode after this will show you how these four forces played out through actual history. Pillar 1, power. In international affairs, there is no Supreme Court, there is no global police force that every nation must answer to. When a country does something that harms another country, there is no referee who blows a whistle. That means power is everything. If you have it, you make the rules. If you don't have it, the rules are made for you. But what exactly power? It's not just military strength, through the part of it, but power is the total ability of nation to get what it wants. That includes its military, its economy, its technology, its population, its geography, and its alliances. And something softer, its culture, its reputation, what other nations think of it. Political scientists call that last one soft power. Here's a simple example. The United States and Switzerland are both wealthy democracies, but only one of them can tell other countries what to do. The difference is not just money, it's every dimension of power combined. Here comes the next one. Pillar 2, territory. Geography is not neutral. Where a country is located determines almost everything about its foreign policy, sometimes for centuries. Let me give you the clearest simple example in the world, Russia. Look at the map of Russia. It's the largest country on earth by area. You had think that gives it security, but actually it gives Russia a nightmare. Russia has no natural borders in almost directions. No mountains, no oceans protecting it. Just flat open land. The same flat open land that Napoleon marched through in 1812 and that Hitler armies crossed in 1941. That geography created a permanent Russian obsession. Buffer states. Russia has always tried to control the countries around it. Not necessarily because Russian leaders are evil, but because Russia's geography makes it feel permanently vulnerable. Now look at the United States. Two giant oceans on either side, friendly, weaker neighbors to the north and south. That geography gave America something that almost no other great power in the history has ever had. The luxury of choosing when and where to get involved in the world's conflict. Geography didn't make Russia aggressive and America peaceful. Geography created different strategic realities, and each country's foreign policy followed those realities almost perfectly. This is why we study territory. The shape of the land underneath a country writes the first chapter of its foreign policy. And next pillar is resources. Wars are almost never really about what they say they are about. They are almost always about resources. Resources are anything a nation needs to survive and project power: food, water, oil, gas, minerals. In the ancient world, it was grain and iron. In the industrial era, it was coal and steel. Today, it's oil, rare earth minerals, and semiconductors. The country that controls critical resources has leverage over every country that needs them, and every country needs something. Think about the Middle East. The region has been at the center of global politics for the entire 20th century. Is that because of its culture, government, its region? Partly, but mostly because of oil. The world's most powerful economies needed that oil that made a desert region one of the strategically important places on the planet. Or think about Ukraine today. Why does it matter so much? Partly it's about NATO, partly it's about Russian territory, but also Ukraine has some of the most fertile agriculture land in the world. It produces enormous amount of wheat that feeds countries across Africa and Middle East. That's a resource. That's a leverage that makes Ukraine geopolitically significant in a ways that has nothing to do with its military size. When you read about any conflict, ask yourself, what resource is actually at stake here? You actually find the real answer faster than any newspaper will give you. Another pillar is alliances. No country, not even the most powerful one in the world, can do everything alone. Nations need partners, and the alliances they build and the alliances they break shape history more than almost any other single factor. But here is the crucial thing about alliances that most people miss. They are never about friendship, they are about interest. During World War II, the United States and the Soviet Union were allies. They fought side by side to defeat Nazi Germany. 5 years later, they were the greatest enemies the modern world had ever seen, locked in a Cold War that nearly destroyed civilization. Nothing happened in terms of ideology between 1945 and 1950. What changed was the strategic situation. The common enemy was gone. Now each other's interest pointed at the other. The 19th century British statesman Lord Palmerston said it's best, and this quote will come up again and again in this series. He said, nations have no permanent friends or allies, they only have permanent interests. Write that down, tattoo it on your brain, because once you internalize that sentence, international relationships stops being confusing and start making complete sense. Every alliance you ever read about in history, the Persians allying with Sparta against Athens, Britain allying with France after centuries of war, China and America cooperating against the USSR, all of it follows that logic. Interest, not friendship. So let's bring these 4 pillars together: power, territory, resources, alliances. Here's how they work in real life. Right now, today, China is building artificial islands in the South China Sea. Why? Territory. It wants to extend its geographic reach and control shipping lanes. Resources. Those waters hold enormous resources of oil and gas, and the shipping lanes carry trillions of dollars of trade. Power. Controlling this region protects Chinese military power far beyond its mainland coast. And alliances. It's directly challenging US alliances with the Philippines, Vietnam, and Japan. That one situation, China's island building, touches all 4 pillars simultaneously. And once you see that, you stop asking, why is China doing this? You understand exactly why, and you can predict what comes next. That's what geopolitics give you, not just an explanation from the past, a framework for the present and the future. And here what makes this subject so endlessly fascinating. Human beings have been playing this game for 5,000 years. The players change, the technology changes, the resources change, but the game, the underlying logic of power, territory, resources, and the alliances never changes. The Persians were doing it in 500 BCE, Rome was doing it, the Mongols were doing it, the British Empire was doing it, and every country on the earth is doing it right now, today, as you watch this. In the next episode, we are going back to the very beginning, to the first civilization, Mesopotamia and Egypt, and we are going to see how these 4 pillars showed up in the world's very first international rivalries. Because, yes, even before written history was fully developed, humans were already doing geopolitics. If this episode made the world make a little more sense to you, that's exactly what this series is for. Subscribe, because we are going to be on this journey for a long time, from the ancient world all the way to the headlines of today. Every episode is a chapter, and we are just getting started. I'll see you in the next one.